Hello everyone and welcome to the Galway Downs International 3-day event here in beautiful Temecula, California. This week we look forward to bringing you daily coverage and behind the scenes interviews of what is set to be a fantastic international field of riders. For US Eventing, I'm Frankie Terriot. Join us this week for daily coverage. We're joined now by Madison Tempkin, who's riding in the training division. Maddie, tell me a little bit about your horse.
My mare is 20 and she's gone intermediate and she's had 2 foals.
And how long have you been riding her?
I've been riding her for about a year.
And tell me what you're looking forward to most this weekend and what your favorite part about being at Galway is.
My favorite part about being at Galway is having a really nice cross-country course, and my favorite part is probably going to be the cross-country.
All right, well, good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
And we're joined now by Olivia Loiacono, who's back on the West Coast for Galway Downs. Talk to me about being back here.
Well, it's really nice to be back. I haven't competed here for 4 years, I think, so it's nice. I've been on the East Coast, and it's good to see everybody out here, and it's really cool to see what Robert's done with the place and everybody out here to develop such an awesome event. I think it's such a big step for the West Coast, and it's really cool to see a lot of East Coasters out here as well. So just to see it, evolving is awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting. I do a lot of clinics and things like that, and Robert's been very good to me, and I've always wanted to support this event. I know what a great job he does, not only here, but for West Coast eventing and eventing in general. So it's exciting to be here. I have 3 really good horses, and we're excited to be here.
It was 3 days of traveling across the country from Florida when we left, but it's totally worth it. It's great out here.
We're in the barns now with Max McManamy. And Max, this is your second CCI here with Project Runway. You're obviously braiding, getting ready to go for the jog today. What's it like to be back at Galway, and what are you looking forward to?
Well, Galway's awesome. It's such a great event. I love the November show. Actually, I love all of them. I came here last year with him and did the CCI 1-star, which he won. So he was fantastic last year. So hoping that we can repeat that and do it in the 2-star.
All of the international divisions presented their horses for the first horse inspection this morning, and all were turned out in their best.
We're down at the jog with Brin Hamel, and is this your first CCI 1-star?
This is my first CCI 1-star.
And your first jog?
My first jog too, yes.
Very exciting, and who are you wearing today?
I found this number at Nordstrom's.
It's very lovely. We wish you the best of luck this weekend. Madison Hogan and King's Crossing, this is your first CCI 1-star. Talk about your experience thus far here at Galway.
I love this show. This show is one of my favorites, and it's such a great way to end the year. And things have been going really well, and the jog is just a fun way to kick off the weekend.
Your colors actually match your barn colors quite well. Discuss your outfit choice.
Yeah, that wasn't by accident. I don't know, I just whipped it up really quick. I wore it at Rebecca Farm, actually. It's a redo.
And I got this really cool belt from Amy McCool. She's actually selling them this weekend, and I don't know, just a little white and bright.
Throwing it together, getting some attention. You got the pink hair you're rocking. You rocked that at the Pan Ams. That one's stunning also against your blonde locks.
Yeah.
So you're gonna keep the pink for a little longer?
I am. It was red for the Pan Ams, going a little red and white for Canada, and I switched it up this weekend. So see if it brings good luck.
All right, well, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Ian Stark's CCI 3-star cross-country course at this year's Galway Downs 3-day is what any competitor should expect of a true international test. Bold, accurate rides will be rewarded, while any loss of focus by horse or rider will likely result in 20 faults. The first 3 fences invite competitors to the course and the sweeping views of the Temecula Valley. By fence 4, the pairs need to be in sync and ready to address more difficult questions. The complex at 5 and 6 is the first of many that will require a skilled ride.
We're here at 5, A, B, and 6, which is really the first combination on course. Ian, talk to me about what it's going to take to get it done here.
Well, the first 4 fences are similar to last year, and this is, as you say, the first real question. It's a steep ramp up to this crazy rail upright, and then there's 3 committed strides to the chicaner on the top of the bank, and then downhill to a bit of a turn to the triple bar, which is on 4 strides. And it's all really about, it's not too technical, but it's all getting your horse ready for what's ahead. But you know, you could make a silly here. You could have a 20 penalties, and it's a long way around this course if you have a run out at fence 6. But it is a separate number down there. So if anyone makes a bit of a Horlicks of it, then they can circle and waste time and save 20 penalties. But this is where you'll find out whether your horse is on for the game today or not.
Ready for the task. And Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is really what the riders have got to look out for. And one of the aspects is that there's a mighty big hole below that B, and riders have got to ignore it, but they've got to be aware and persuade the horses they've got to ignore it too. And of course the other key here is rider position over that, because they've got to sit up and then be able to control the horse and get a really good shot to that triple brush. So it's a really good rider question, or an awakener if you like, early on in the course. Really good start, I think.
Fence 7 is a wide box that leads to the first of 3 water complexes on course. 8A, B, and C are always crowd favorites as horses and riders splash into the water, jump through the keyhole on the island in the Oasis, and out over a narrow Land Rover log.
After this, riders have done the first water complex, obviously come through the keyhole, had a bit of a gallop, and come here to 10AB at the moat, where, talk to me about kind of the challenges here.
Well, it's similar to last year, and the fences are exactly the same. We've just changed the brush on top. Instead of having it, you know, narrow bit near the left-hand flag for them to jump, and then coming steep, we've put it on an angle so that it legally measures left of centre, but it's quite soft brush, so if they jump it anywhere, the horses tend to brush through it. The issue here is to be accurate at the first one, and then at the moment the second one is the pampas grass has sort of got rather carried away in its growing phase, so we'll cut that back, and it's all about getting the 4 strides across the middle, and once the pampas grass is cut away, there's the big risk of running out to the right of the second one. So it's really a question of the horses staying on the line and the riders staying in balance.
Absolutely, and our viewers can't see it, but if we walk over here, guys, we'll take a look from a different angle, and you've strategically placed these little guys here in the middle. So as a rider, you certainly have to make a choice if you're going to go inside or outside. Mike, what's your thoughts on which line to take?
I think it's got to be inside. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The question I wanted to ask Ian really is, did anyone do it on 5 last year, Ian?
Yeah, the odd one, but we get some that go so quickly that they sort of get 3.5, you know, and it's all about, you know, I think they tend to think there's going to be a long distance, and some of the riders were overriding the first element and then getting here on a half stride, and that's when the horses, you know, take advantage of the run out. And this chest piece near the second element I put there to stop them doing a curving line to make the second element easier. I wanted to make sure they had to go straight and stay on a line, and I wanted to see that the horses could stay on that line.
The double open corners at 12 will also keep horses and riders on their toes.
We're now out here at the Point 2 Airvest Indian Camp, where we have these double open corners. And Ian, talk to me a little bit about, we're changing a little bit lately and moving to these more open corners in the last couple of years. Talk about this complex, but also talk about that transition that we're seeing.
Well, the thing about the filled in corners, the flags tended to be right at the end of these big solid corners, and riders were not jumping the correct line, you know, dissecting the 90-degree line in the middle of the fence. They were cheating a little bit and giving the horses too much of a spread to jump, and so horses were climbing on top of them and all sorts. And so it didn't relate to good riding. And so now we're going back to the open corners, and they've got to be accurate, because if they get their line wrong, they're going to jump into the middle of it. So I think generally in the sport we feel that it's encouraging better riding, and they're riding more accurate lines. And so here we've got 2 corners. The first one isn't quite 90 degrees, the second one is 90 degrees, and then there's 6 strides of a turn in between, but there's separate numbers. So if the riders are not happy, they can circle before they go to the second one, or they can circle around the big box over there and jump that as an alternative, just wasting time.
And Mike, tell me kind of as a rider what your take would be on if you did have a horse that kind of had a little bit of a problem here at 11, being numbered separately. Would you be more inclined to take the circle route or go ahead and take that option?
I think it really depends on how your horse reacts in these circumstances. These days, you do so much more in training in terms of accuracy questions, and you don't get to this level without having done quite a lot of homework. I'd like to think that if I was on a horse that was literally on the upgrade and I was trying to teach him at the same time, I'd like to try and take the 2 corners on. It is a case of getting your line absolutely right and having a nice rhythm, and just at the same time sitting up, turning. It's a good test of rider position again, so that they get the right position, can sit up and turn and give the horse a lovely approach. It's difficult, and Ian, I just wonder, this is the second time you've built this CCI 3-star here. What have you done differently this time to test them? Was there things last year you say, okay, I'm going to test them a little differently this time? Was this, for instance, one of them?
Yeah, I mean, last year we had just over to the right there, we had a double of uprights, and I wanted very upright fences. That's another thing that the sport's going back to, because the friendly round-topped fences that we thought were horse friendly were encouraging riders to take a bit more liberty and chances. And so I had a couple of upright fences, and they worked well, but I don't think there was any trouble at them all day. So, you know, you've got to just keep thinking, and you have to be careful not to sort of try and make every easy fence tougher, but then you've got to keep challenging the riders and make them thinking. And what I like about these corners is they're open, and also the fact there's 6 strides in there on a turn means the riders can do what they like. You know, we might get someone goes quick in 5, and then we might get someone that takes 7 or 8 because they think backwards. And you know, the ideal would be to jump this in a nice rhythm. It's quite a tricky bending line into it, so it sort of sets them up because they've had a long galloping stretch. So we're sort of setting them up a little bit with a turn into it, and then if they just keep the rhythm, they should get a nice pattern of 6 strides. But we will see anything and everything going on in here.
On to 13 through the show jumping arena, and then up the hill to 14 and 15. A strong gallop through the trade fair leads riders down to the second water complex.
We're now here at the second water complex on course. This one was here last year and caused a bit of a stir in the division. We had several riders, one unseated, few refusals, some difficulties here, certainly. So there's a little bit of a change from last year's CCI 3-star at this complex. Tell me about that.
Well, this year, I mean last year rather, the riders came in the corner of the water just past the tree. There was no jump in, and I think the problem then was that the riders didn't have the correct speed and pace to jump up the step, so they tended to get here. This 1 stride became 1.5, and so they either chipped in and made a mess or stood off and dropped their back legs in it. Now we've got them galloping through the trade fair, and then they've got a downhill approach over quite a big hanging log with a decent drop into the water, and as soon as they land they've got to really move for the 4 strides, but because they're attacking they then get up the step and get closer to the rail, and so they should have a better jump back over the big drop. And then they've got to stay straight and a little bend at the end for 4 strides to get over the front end of the chamois. And if they get this wrong, they can circle to the left and represent without getting 20. But I'm hoping that the jump in will be the biggest change to the combination, and by riding that more positively, more aggressively, then the rest should hopefully follow on.
So is 17 in the same location?
It's more or less. I couldn't tell you if it's exactly the same, but you know, when you're standing up here, it's on quite an angle. So the temptation for the riders, I think, is that they're going to jump off this big drop and then they're just going to aim straight for the chamois, and that would be a mistake because that suddenly opens up the gap on the left. And if they jump left of this Normandy bank and stay straight and then turn back to it, if they've got enough control, that would be a better way to jump it.
Up the hill and across the track to 18 is a huge hanging brush Ian predicts will produce some spectacular jumps.
So following the last water complex, the second water complex on course where they have the chamois whale, the riders will gallop across this racetrack and come to 18, which is called the hanging brush. And Mike, it's definitely a hanging brush.
It certainly is a hanging brush. I'm not 6 foot tall, believe me. It's enormous, isn't it? But this is one of the great things about building and designing courses. Horses are wonderful athletes when it comes to it, and they'll fly this. As long as the rider's sat in the right place and sits up, perhaps gives the reins a little bit and lets them slip through their fingers, they'll have a great jump. And this is what's great about Ian's courses, because they have the blend of accuracy, rhythm and balance, but also to be brave and courageous. And this is definitely the brave and courageous bit.
Ian, you said this one's a bit bigger than last year brush-wise, and did you not see enough hanging last year?
Yeah, it's. I just thought. I mean, last year we had a triple brush on the landing side about 5 strides away, and actually they made it look like a sort of gymnastic exercise in the arena. So I said, right, they're going to see a proper ditch this year. So it's. I think from the front of this rail to the back of the brush is 8 foot, so it's a decent spread, and it looks enormous. But actually, it's a little bit of downhill across the racetrack, and when you're standing at the other side of the racetrack, it just looks like a friendly little brush. It's not until you stand here that you realise how serious it is. But I think, as Mike says, the horses will fly it. And the nice thing is, although it's sort of into space and there's a big drop, it's sort of 2 metre drop, but the landing is a runaway down a hill. And so the horses won't be jarred in any way, because you want them to be brave and bold, so you want to be sympathetic on the landing. And although it'll feel like flying to the riders, hopefully with the horse and not on their own, but it will feel like flying, but they should get a wonderful feel over this.
So horses kind of rewarded on the downside, because after this they definitely have a long gallop stretch until they have another question.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, there is a situation here where they've got a little bit of a let-up once they get over this for a couple of fences, which is good. You've got to design those into your courses. You can't keep on asking and asking and asking. But just going back to this fence, Frankie, there was a course designer, Colonel Frank Weldon, who was probably one of the most famous of all. Ian and I jumped his courses, and he always had this theory, you know, you frighten the riders and not the horses, and this is exactly that fence. You know, you go down, look at you down in the ditch, look up at the fence, and it's enormous, and it's a real rider frightener, and it will still today do that. But as long as you attack it, you'll have a great ride over it.
Well, to frighten the riders a little bit more, I'm 5'9", so if we walk around to the other side, you can kind of see what you're up against here, and it's certainly dwarfs me quite a bit as I stand at the base of this jump. So be prepared for something pretty big, as Ian and Mike mentioned, and it's going to be quite a jump right here.
A long gallop through the infield rewards horses before turning to 19. 20A, B, C, and D bring riders through a sunken road and lead them back across the track, over another Land Rover log, and to the third water complex on course.
We're now here at the third water. It's 22AB and then up the bank to 23. This one will obviously be filled at the show when riders come through here. But discuss kind of the challenges here and the importance of keeping them straight as you come up the bank to get the brush done.
Well, yeah, I think the riders would be quite happy if there was no water in it. It's not a big fence on the approach on the way in, but it is quite a big drop. It's a almost 2 metre drop, so it's quite a serious drop. And then it's quite far on in the course, so the horses might be getting a little bit leg weary and maybe not reacting quite as sharply as they had done earlier on the course. And we might have the odd rider that's not reacting quite as sharply either. So it's a question of get the jump in, get reorganised, rebalanced, turn, and then it's one stride to the skinny bit of brush. And you know, we've given them a little bit of at the end by the white flag to try and jump the narrow bit, but the riders know that this brush is very soft, and most of them just aim right for the middle, right, for the highest part that is, you know, illegal as a jump, but we've given them a legal height to jump, and that's where we want them to jump, and I should think most of them will aim for the big bit.
But what about depth of water in? Because there are sort of different thinking now about that, isn't there? That thoughts it may be a bit deeper. What are you aiming for here?
I would like it to be deeper, but we have to watch because we've got the 1 and 2 star first, and so the 3 star will be later. You know, what's been happening lately is that there's been, you know, just a few inches of water. Riders haven't respected it and they've just galloped through as though there's none there. And I think what we've lost the the knack of doing as riders and as designers of testing the riders is jumping into deeper water where the water is maybe almost 10-12 inches deep, and it's going to have an effect on the horse's legs. So as they land, if the water is deep, they get dragged and they can tend to go on their heads a little bit, and that's a question of riders riding and jumping in at the right speed and then being in the right position to land and be in balance. So going for the deeper water is definitely the way we want to go. I don't want them swimming, but on the other hand, I'd like to see the riders have to think a bit more about it and not just gallop through these waters as though they're not there. The horses don't know, though, whether it's a swimming pool we're jumping into or 2 inches. So, you know, they're brave to do whatever, but I think the riders can take liberties with the shallower water.
24 is a table that leads to a large brushy corner as the B element. 25A and B will ask riders to negotiate a tall vertical brush down a hill to a skinny narrow upright log. Finally, fences 26 and 27 will welcome riders back home after what promises to be a very tough test.
Well, guys, you've taken us through kind of the do's and don'ts of the course. Talk to me about overall impressions. What do you think it's going to take here, Mike, to get the job done?
Well, let me say to start with, I haven't seen the CCIs here, particularly here in November. This is only the second one. I think it's a smashing course, but I do think there are plenty of places where the odd 20 can come into effect. The riders are going to have to be very much on the ball, and horses are going to have to be fit too. I know it's dirt going, and that in itself there's a bit of give in the going, but it actually saps a bit of energy too, in my view. So I personally think that it will ride well, but I think there will be sufficient penalties to make it a very good competition. I very much look forward to watching it, actually, because it tests the all-round ability of horse and rider, and that's exactly what it should do.
Well, we have nearly 40 competitors who will give this course a go, Ian. Double almost last year, which is phenomenal in itself. But talk to me a little bit about what you're looking for from a rider's perspective and what you really want to see out of this course and how they ride it.
Well, before I go on to that, I mean, what's thrilling from my point of view and for Robert Kellerhouse's point of view is that you know 16 horses came over from the East Coast and 2 have come over from Europe, from Holland. You know, that's quite fantastic to draw that crowd here. So, you know, I don't want them all to go clear, but I'd like them all to have quite a nice time. So I'm really, I think probably, you know, last year was the first year. You have to be very careful the first time, the 3-star 3-day event on the West Coast. You know, you wanted to encourage people to come back and not put them off. And it's tweaked up a little bit. I wouldn't say it's massively more difficult, but I think there's a few more serious questions than last year.
So we're looking forward to a fantastic event here at Galway Downs, and I thank you both so much for joining us, and we're hoping for great results and obviously a fantastic course again. So thanks so much, Ian.
Thank you.